Hey, what's good everybody? My name is Alckemy and welcome to another video. Today we are going to skip the introduction and talk about how to make music straight from beatboxing. Now, the only thing that I have recorded just to give us a little bit of leeway was I went and made a generator, or used a generator preset from my newest pack, Eternum, which sounds like this. Did some extra processing to it to some degree, and then I recorded this a couple of times and just made my own kind of like glitch rack, so that way we kind of have something to go off of. And the reason why I did that as opposed to doing it from scratch is because this isn't really the point of the video. I've got tutorials on how to do all this stuff and presets available that you can purchase or download somewhere. Don't worry about the context of this. What I do want to talk about is figuring out a way to use beatboxing in order to extract rhythms out of it, specifically for IDM. Now, you can do this with any other genre, but I find that it's a lot of fun to do it with IDM specifically because it focuses on a lot of polyrhythm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the audio over here to something different because for some reason I can't record audio into the DAW while I'm streaming or while I'm recording. So I'm going to set the output over to this, and you're not going to hear it in this, but you will hear it through my voice, I think. Yeah, so I'm still on the microphone there. So let's go ahead and turn this on. Make sure that this is reading. There we go. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to record some kind of beatboxing thing and just kind of like try to get as close to as time as I possibly can, and then we'll figure out what to do from there. Wish me luck, because I might have to do this a few times. Okay, so obviously to some degree that was off time, but that's okay. I think that this will be good enough. So I'm going to switch this back out to the multi-output device, and then that'll turn everything on. And then what we can do from here is kind of just work with this to some degree. Now, unfortunately, even if this is all messed up, it's not too bad. But what we can do is probably just take half of it and then like duplicate it, and it'll be fine. Actually, we'll just take half of it in general. 2 bars is totally fine for this particular thing. But what we have now is essentially like a set of kind of transients or onsets that we can kind of manipulate in that way. And so I'm not really worried about correcting all this right now, and maybe to some degree you might not want to correct this, but what I'm going to focus on is grabbing a transient shaper here. I know that I also pulled up the volume or whatever, but I'm going to focus on making this as big as possible. And the reason why is because I want it to detect the rhythm to some degree. So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and bounce that out again, and you can see that like the transients on these are just totally destroyed, but that's okay, because again, we're trying to get the computer to work for us. But now that we've got a little bit more transients, we can go to slice to multi-sample and then hit onset, and that way this will detect a little bit easier what we're trying to kind of pull out of this, so you can see that everything is lined up to those big old transients right there in the first place. So now that we have this, we essentially have like a rhythm that we just beatboxed, and even though it's out of time, as you can tell, we can always fix that, or like you can break it down into smaller chunks. Like instead of recording 8 bars of like crazy freaking fill things or whatever, you can just do 1 bar at a time, and that's totally fine. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to grab this, select all, and then we'll go ahead and quantize that. And I might have to do this a couple of times, but we'll see what we get. So we'll go here to quantize, and let's try like 132 and see what that does. Okay, everything looks like it's somewhat in time now. And now that we have something like this, it's pretty cool because all we have to really do is drag this over to that initial glitch rack that we had, and then we can kind of change the position or change the sample of these without changing the timing of the rhythm. So this is really cool, and this is like a really important part of the rhythm right there to kind of give that fill. So what we can do is try to... Okay, that's pretty cool. So maybe what we can do is pull this over a little bit. And I actually like that right there, so maybe what we can do is repeat that. Okay, cool. So yeah, we can repeat that to some degree over here, and then we can do some other fixing or whatever, and we're just kind of trying to give ourselves some advantage to work with. But now that we have something like that, we can even change this into something different, and we've got a different call and response between both of these without changing the rhythm or without changing too many things. Now, one thing that I might do is switch this over here instead, and then I'll take this one and do something different as well. Like maybe instead of having that one, I'll just extend this. And then, okay, so now we've got 2 bars of something like this. And And so all we have to do from there is kind of just like play along and look at the kick and snare placements of these, or keep messing with it until we find something that's cool, and then you kind of just go from there. So in particular, I'm going to try to come into this and fix some of this stuff, because you can see that it's still out of time in some places, but that's okay, because now that I've got that, it's still viable by all means. So let's go from here. Okay. Okay, I think that this is the one that sounds kind of wonky. And then from there, we can try to duplicate that. Cool. And I do like that, but I do want to change the last hit of this to something that's a little bit more identifiable as the response, because right now it sounds like those two are overlapping and it's hard to tell when those reset. And sometimes that can actually be kind of cool, because it's easy to kind of like, or it's a way or a trick that you can use to kind of make people feel like they're thrown off even though it's still in time or whatever. But for the sake of like wanting to do drum programming and making it easier for this video, I'm going to kind of switch that up. So we can do something kind of like that, and then we can grab these and make the ends of this a little bit shorter. So let's see what that sounds like. Okay, cool. So now that we have something like that, all we have to essentially do is come and grab something that's kind of like a kick and snare. So I'm going to grab this and pull these upwards toward the top, and those should be somewhere over this way. There we go. I've got a couple of these, or just a kick and snare pattern or whatever that you can kind of just mess with. But all we have to do from there is kind of just program something to be super easy in that way. You can even just have it be a dubstep pattern, right, if you really wanted to, but so we can take a listen to how that sounds. But before we do that, I'm going to set up an easy sidechaining thing. So we'll group that, we'll group this, go here. The way that I do sidechaining in Bitwig is I grab a tool, then I grab an audio sidechain. You can also do a MIDI sidechain if you want, or if you have Gatekeeper or something of the sort, then you can do that. But I'm going to pull this down by like 12, okay, 10 dB, whatever. Then I'm going to pull this here, give this just a small amount of attack, and then we'll go and find the group. This is group 7 that we want, because it's got the kick and the snare. There we go. And now our sidechain is set up to do a clean volume duck as opposed to doing sidechain compression in that sense. Let me organize this a little bit for you. This is not anything that we're using. What we basically did was we created a glitch rack, or like a glitch multi-sample device, and there's a billion different ways to do that. Then what we did was we went over here and we beatboxed some kind of rhythm. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated, and you don't even have to do beatboxing. You can use just some kind of sample that has a cool polyrhythm in it that you like, and the grooves and stuff aren't going to be perfect, so that's part of like you having to do your own legwork and whatever. So don't try to like bounce out halftime tune thinking that you're going to be able to steal the rhythm exactly or whatever, but you can get kind of close, and then you can eyeball the rest and create your own thing, right? So yeah, we did that. We made sure that the transients were big, and then we bounced the rhythm of this into a multi-sample. Then we took the MIDI from that multi-sample and we replaced it with our actual sounds that we were making at the beginning of the video, right? And so now that we have something like that, you know, like I said before, we just got a kick snare pattern or whatever, which is nothing super special, but we can use that. This is off. I was like, well, something's not right with that. But we can do that, or use that to kind of use this as a jump off point, right? So we've got something like this. Okay, so obviously like this snare is super duper dark and like not really that interesting in comparison. And then what I can also do is kind of turn this down a little bit to match the volume of the drums. Of course, now what I would want to do is probably make the drums a little bit more interesting. We can maybe grab this, slice that part off, do some easy wizardry here where we've got some kind of fade thing coming into this to go into the next hit or whatever. Boom, 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 cap. Boom, 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 boom. Pull that back. And then what we can do from here is we can pull that over. That's on raw, so we can change that to stretch HD, and then we can kind of double that up. and then we can duplicate and variate, right? So boom, boom, pa. And even throw that right there, I think. Nah, I think it's better right there. So now I'm just kind of like arranging and stuff, right? Or just playing around with different rhythms that we can do. But having something like this makes it a lot easier for us to start to, like I said before, play around with. And part of the fun from this is just having a piece of audio or like a simple starting point and then taking it further. And then kind of just seeing where it goes from there. Okay, so now that we have something like that too, we can also kind of grab this, kind of refine that. But the most important thing that we have from here is just messing with these different cuts and playing with these rhythms that we have. And like you can always like break the rules or whatever, but the cool thing about this is that like this follows the initial idea that we had, right? And even though the sounds or whatever that I had in mind aren't lined up with what I originally imagined, it's still like kind of getting yourself one step closer towards doing something like that. So assuming you have the ability to know how to do this stuff, or even if you know how to make a Foley rack, or even if you just want to do it with like hi-hat patterns or something, right? Like, dude, like I have so many things. Go download a Born Mech, it's free, and then just like throw that into a multi-sample and then you'll be fine. You literally don't have to do any work, or go buy Eternum and support the channel. But from that point on, like once you have these glitches and stuff, then it's just a matter of trying to come up with a cool little rhythm or whatever. And that's kind of like why beatboxing in itself is so powerful, even if you're not that good. Like it doesn't have to be like you can slow the rhythm, you can slow the tempo down, right? And really go like, I don't know, Bismarcky, like that Yo Gabba Gabba show, right? Or something super simple. And like I said, you can even take a loop if you're feeling that lazy or something and just kind of mess with this. But I try to think of term like in means of rhythm now as opposed to melody and all that, because like this is the most fun for me. Like micro editing is the most fun thing that I get out of music and sound design. I guess micro editing would be like the production side of things, right? But yeah. And then from that point on, like you just start to, you know, continue on, or like you can even beatbox another thing and then do the same thing if you want, or like you can just go off of variations of this and start, you know, just listen to the thing for a sec. Okay, so like maybe you want to like take some of these moments and then like add some variation or like duplicate them or something, right? So you can take out these two parts and like keep, and double this, or maybe even keep the rhythm and like let it go up. And then like maybe you want to do like a different like dotted rhythm or something on something like that. And like you see what I'm saying? Like what I'm trying to get you to do is figure out how to go from leading from one thing to the other. And that's like the funnest part of this whole idea of puzzles and stuff in the first place. Because to me, making music has become more of a puzzle of how do I figure out how to get from one part to the next, as opposed to what am I trying to express, which storytelling is a big aspect to me. But unfortunately, like my brain doesn't work that way until the picture has already been painted, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well there it is, right? It's very unfortunate, and that's I guess the upside of that is we come up with strategies like this. So even though I wouldn't say that this is the most interesting thing that I've ever done or come up with, hopefully this will give you some insight into how to start a track just by, you know, putting your beatboxing idea into the DAW and then extracting the groove to create something different. And I encourage you to try different genres. Just don't do 4/4 music, I guess. Like it wouldn't really make sense for you to go I guess you could, but that would just be like, I don't know, defeating the whole purpose, right? You might as well just like pull up some MIDI and then like grab a whole thing. But that would be pretty funny for memes. And if any of you all do that, then tag me in it and I'll laugh. It'll be a good time. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have for this particular video. And again, like try not to focus so much on the quality of the sound. It's more so about like, here's a concept and see what you can do with it. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. Support the channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for content like this. And thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one.